Good evening and welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream for Saturday night, October 3rd. My name is Alan Collins. I'm founder of studentloanjustice.org. I'm going to get right into it, folks. The student loan system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy. Now, that's obvious to me. I've been living and breathing this problem for 15 years now, and it's obvious to many of the people in our group. But I think to many, that's not really clear. So, what do I mean when I say that? Well, here's what I mean. By every reasonable metric and measure, the student loan system, both federal and private, are failed. Not failing, failed. So, what can we compare it to? Well, let's look at the subprime home mortgage crisis. What were the default rate for subprime home mortgages? It was about 20%. So 1 in 5 of these subprime home mortgage loans went bad. Well, folks, we now know that the default rate for 2004 students for student loans is 40%. And people in 2004 were only borrowing about 1/3 of what's being borrowed today. So if the default rate for the class of 2004 was 40%, what is it for people today, more recent borrowers? Is it 60%? Yeah. Is it 70%? Is it maybe even 80%? Yeah, it could very well be. Wages have not risen dramatically, if at all, adjusted for inflation since 2004. But with people borrowing triple that amount, yeah, it's way over 40%. It's probably closer to 80%. And this was before the pandemic. What else can I tell you? I spoke with the recently resigned head of the federal student loan program in March, just before the pandemic hit. And he said that he resigned now, but when he was on the job last summer, I believe, he said that that 80%, 4 out of 5, 80% of all federal student loan borrowers were either unable to make payments on their loans, so they weren't paying, or they were paying, but their balance was going up. And the former was a much larger group than the latter, by the way. So most people not even able to pay, but those few who were able to pay, their balances were going up. I could go on and on here, folks, but I think I've said enough. I think I've given you all the data that you need to conclude that, as any reasonable person should, that this is a failed lending system. And now that we're in a pandemic where 50 million people lost their jobs, and the last I checked, only like 10 million of those jobs had come back, I think many, if not most, of those jobs will not come back. So this is a failed lending system, folks. It is illegitimate. One other point. Every loan in this country has bankruptcy protections behind them. Every loan in this country has statutes of limitations, which govern how long a creditor can harass a borrower for collection of a loan. Student loans are the only type of loan in our nation's history to not have either of those. So this is an illegitimate, indefensible, failed lending system. Guys, this is a lending scam. It just is. It's a big government lending scam. The founding fathers were very worried about this kind of a thing happening to us. John Adams said there are 2 ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Robert Morris, these guys they themselves were being savaged under predatory debt to British banks and merchants. So when they ratified the Constitution, they called for uniform bankruptcy laws, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, build a navy, ahead of the power to coin currency. That is how important the founding fathers felt the bankruptcy protections were to preventing the country from, being conquered and enslaved by debt. So, folks, there's no easy way to say this, but it's just a fact. This is a failed lending system. And quite frankly, you do not only yourself a grave disservice, but you do a very unwise, unpatriotic thing by paying any more of your hard-earned money into this unconstitutional, predatory, failed, illegitimate lending system. Don't feed the beast. This lending system is done. It's toast. Put a fork in it. We may be the first ones saying it, but I guarantee you that everybody on the other side of this issue, that is the lenders, the collection companies, the guarantors, they know it's true. They know. It's just a spineless Washington, D.C. that has kicked this can down the road to the point where now it is a nuclearly radioactive, toxic 55-gallon barrel of poisonous waste. So, folks, at some point you kind of have to laugh, right? And that's kind of where we're at. The lending system is illegitimate. It cannot continue. It will not continue. Nobody is making payments on their student loans right now, almost. And really, nobody should. Lending systems fail. Subprime home mortgage, huge failure. The SNL crisis, if those of you of a certain age may remember, Google it, SNL crisis, failed. So this happens. Don't feel bad. Certainly don't feel guilty, because this is not your fault. We just got done throwing $5 trillion out into the economy. And that the first thing we didn't do was cancel these loans. Certainly these federal student loans, which are 85-90% of all student loans. It's astonishing. It should have been the first thing that we did. You can cancel these loans tomorrow. The president, this president, or the next can cancel these loans by executive order without needing one dime from Congress, without having to pay one penny, without adding one nickel to the national debt. This is what has to happen. They could return bankruptcy protections, I suppose, to the loans. And yeah, we are fighting for that. There are going to be 15% of student loans left over after the president cancels these loans that will need bankruptcy protections. But, all that would accomplish writ large is forcing 10, 15, 20, 25 million people into bankruptcy. At this point, that's the wrong thing to do. That's too many people to be throwing into bankruptcy. It would overwhelm the courts. It's not realistic. So, folks, the best thing that any of us can be doing right now is fighting with us. If you do nothing, this could have a really bad outcome, could last for the rest of your life. We've got to band together on this. Don't feed the beast. Don't allow yourself to be scared. I would say bulletproof yourself to whatever extent you can, and get ready to help us fight, because we need you and you need us. We are the only group with a valid, reasonable, realistic plan for canceling the loans, and that is by executive order. Congress is not going to cancel these loans. They're not going to. We've been doing this for 15 years now, folks, and if I've learned nothing, I've at least learned that Congress will not help us. The petition that we started is the center of the universe in this struggle. We've got 720,000 signatures now. We need to get at least 1 million signatures by the election, hopefully far more than that, far sooner. But it starts with you. These are your loans. This is your problem. And I'm going to leave it there at that, short and sweet. Keep checking back here on this group and on our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. Check back on a daily basis. Things are happening fast. And we need you, as I said, and you need us. These are your loans, your problem. When we work together, we will win this easily. Because Lord knows we don't want to hang separately. So good luck, Godspeed. Remember, change.org/cancel student loans. Put that everywhere that you can. Get it out there. Get 100 people to sign, and you'll be pulling your weight. So good luck. Godspeed, keep checking back, and God bless.